Good evening. It is Tuesday, May 1, 2018, 6:35 p.m. Roll call, please.
Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of the holding of this regular meeting of the Howell Township Council was provided for in the following manner: by the posting of a copy of said notice upon the bulletin board in the Township Municipal Building on January 5, 2018, by the faxing of a copy of said notice to the Tri-Town News, Asbury Park Press, and Star Ledger for information and publication on January 5, 2018, by the filing of a copy of said form of notice in the Township Clerk's office on January 5, 2018. The public will be allowed to attend and will be allowed to participate pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. The public is reminded that civility and decorum will be maintained during the meeting. Any contracts awarded at this meeting or between now and the next meeting will be required to comply with the requirements of Public Law 1975, Chapter 127. In accordance with the Fire Prevention Code, be advised that this facility is designed with emergency exits for your safety. Upon exiting the meeting room, they are to your left and to your right. Furthermore, smoking is not permitted in the municipal building. Please take note that this meeting is being videotaped for possible future broadcast on Howell Television. Roll call, Mrs. O'Donnell.
Present.
Mrs. Smith has an excused absence this evening. Mr. Walsh.
He's coming down the hall.
Mr. Nicastro.
Here.
Mayor Berger.
Present. Is there any reason to go into executive session?
Yes, Mayor, there's several topics to be listed under attorney-client privilege.
May I have a motion to go into executive?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Whereas the governing body of the Township of Howell is authorized pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12 to exclude the public from that portion of the meeting for purposes of discussing specific matters as permitted by NJSA 10:4-12, whereas the governing body of the Township of Howell intends to discuss certain matters which are deemed confidential pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12, whereas at this time the governing body of the Township of Howell cannot determine the time when the discussion to be held in executive session will be made public, but will disclose the minutes of executive session when the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Now therefore be it resolved by the governing body of the Township of Howell that this meeting shall be adjourned to an executive session, and the public will be excluded in order that the previously listed items, and upon reconvening this public meeting, the presiding officer will announce, if possible, the time when and the circumstance under which a discussion conducted in executive session will be disclosed to the public. Roll call, Mrs. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Walsh.
Yes.
Mr. Nicastro.
Yes.
Mayor Berger.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. I would like to call this meeting to order at 7:33, May 1st, 2018. May I have a motion for the minutes?
A
From
motion.
April 17th?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve them?
A second?
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Walsh.
Yes.
Mr. Nicastro.
Yes.
Mayor Berger.
Yes. Do we have any reports?
Would you like to open the meeting by saluting the flag?
Oh, shoot. Barbara, I am very sorry. Please forgive me. It was no intent on my part. But please stand so we can say the Pledge of Allegiance and have a moment of silence for all of our troops. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm freezing. Okay, I guess I'll go back to that. Do we have any reports from the officials in the room? Thank you.
Mayor, I just have one quick item.
Sure.
Last Friday, I attended a function from the State of New Jersey Forest Fire Service where they recognized Howell Township for earning the title of Tree City USA for 20 years in a row. We were given a certificate and a nice award, so
Very nice.
this will be on display. That's all I have for today.
Thank you. Mr. Herman?
Yes, Mayor. A few things just to bring up.
It appears there was some headlines in the recent Howell Times article regarding an introduction of a bond ordinance about water mains. That was actually incorrect. It appears that the reporter combined two completely separate conversations and made it one conversation with the wrong headline. So I have spoken to that reporter. She has apologized. She is not able to make tonight's meeting to discuss it, but she wants you to know that she'll be running a correction for the sewer main issue that we had spoke about. So just so everyone's aware, the headline was Howell introduces water main bonds, which was not accurate. We actually introduced sewer main bonds. The water main had nothing to do with it, and the comment that there's only water, no sewer was related to the Oak Glen Road transmission main project, had nothing to do with Freewood Acres. So I did receive some phone calls over the weekend from some concerned residents that we were going through all this and then not installing sewer, but that's not the case for Freewood Acres. So that will be corrected hopefully in the next newspaper article for the Howell Times.
Thank you. Mr. Clark? Thank you. Any officials have anything?
Yeah, I have something little here. The Optimist Club of Howell's having a soup kitchen event, a barbecue, for those that would like to come, and we've worked it out with the Senior Center. It's going to be June 9th, 2018, from 2 to 4 at Southern School. Howell PAL will be involved, and we actually have 10 of our culinary students. They'll be doing all the cooking that day, so it'll be June 9th from 2 to 4 at Southern School. Come have a nice barbecue. I'll be stopping by for a little bit with my son and my dog. So it'll be a nice time for all, and Melanie's working with us with the seniors, and the manager's been involved, so I think it'll be a good time. We also have, and I'd like to put that out there because it's pretty much a last-minute thing. We do scholarships every year for youth from Howell Township at the Optimist Club, and I've spoken to the Morrell family in honor of former Mayor Harvey Morrell and the first Chief of Police of Howell Township, Harvey Morrell. We'll be doing a scholarship in his name from the Optimist Club for a young man or woman going into a career in criminal justice. So if anybody knows anyone who would like to apply, just go online to the Optimist Club. We will be giving out a scholarship in Harvey's name, and we've done that for years, and different people from Howell Township in perpetuity have been doing it for about 22 years. So if anybody knows anyone who would like to apply for it, be the first one. Jeff Morrell will be coming to the breakfast in July to give out the scholarship, and I've asked the chief if he was available, and he said if he was around, he would also. So, because as you know, if anybody don't know, the Chief Andy Kudrick is the son-in-law of the former Chief Harvey Morrell. That's all from me, Mayor.
Thank you.
I would like to make mention that the senior citizens had a recognition for their volunteers last week, and they honored more than 75 volunteers. It was very well attended, very well thought out, and it was very, very nice to be a part of it. And once again, I can only say our senior citizen complex offers a multitude of services, and it's nice to see them continue on the way they always have.
Mayor, can I just bring up one more thing?
Of course.
About what I gave to the manager and had a community development about that. Could you please get back to us in writing about that with the snow removal with the villages?
Sure.
I had stopped over there to talk to them about the barbecue in June, and they had asked me about it, and I said I would relay it and get back to them. So please get back to us, if at all possible. Thank you.
Okay. We do have a proclamation. The proclamation of continued support for Howell Township Environmental Commission. Whereas the Howell Township Environmental Commission was established for the conservation and development of the natural resources of the township, and whereas the commission is heavily involved in planning, implementing, and informing the public about local conservation programs, as well as conducting research into possible uses of open areas. And whereas the commission makes recommendations to the planning board relating to the master plan and act as the coordinating agency for the community on conservation matters, they also act as a liaison between local conservation needs and regional, county, state, and federal agencies administering to those needs. And whereas the Howell Township Council strives to assure clean air, land, and water in our community, improve the quality of life, and build a community that is environmentally healthy. And whereas the Howell Township Environmental Commission has the continued support of the governing body to continue its mission to preserve and enhance Howell Township's environment for all citizens. Now therefore, I, Teresa Berger, Mayor of the Township of Howell, on behalf of the governing body, do hereby proclaim our continued support for the Howell Township Environmental Commission. I would like to open the meeting up to the hearing of citizens. And I have Barbara Dixell.
Where did we get the Dutton Waters, Miss Monica?
What do you need?
The Dutton Waters, where did we get that?
I don't know.
Where they had sale? Thank you for the water.
You're welcome. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Barbara Dixell, 62A Piazza Vittoria, Freehold, New Jersey.
Good evening.
I have a budget item. First of all, okay, I just picked up a copy of the budget. Have you seen this? There is no human physical way to read this. You can't see it, you can't read it, it's not even 5-pitch. You can't do this to the citizens of this town. That's almost not legal.
Well,
Now, I asked Lou to print it for me in 12-pitch, which he went back and did, so then I will have to sit and read this, and I would appreciate it if the council would go over every single line item on the budget.
Mayor, I did advise Mrs. Dixell that I was the individual who did print these out, that it wasn't the governing body, and I did offer to reprint her a
you
sheet,
did?
which I did, and obviously we have our state copy of the budget that goes to the state, which is also at a 12-pitch, but is also not as detailed
I don't
as what
even
is
think this
provided here.
5-pitch.
How many lashes do you think this is worthy of, Mrs. Dixell?
Excuse me? Say that again, I didn't hear you. I'll be glad to answer your question, so just say that
It's
again.
okay,
Okay,
okay.
okay, now I have a couple of things I'm not too happy about. And I'm gonna go through them, and I'm sorry you're not gonna like it, but either do I. By the way, Mr. Councilman Walsh, the Kelly law says the township has to pay the private community for snow removal. That's the Kelly law. Years, many, many years.
We know all about that.
Oh, I'm just telling you, I know you mentioned the villages, but the
We
Kelly
know
law
all
says...
about that.
Kelly law says township has to pay for snow removal and lighting. Okay,
and like it?
and lighting,
Oh, and lighting.
lighting, street lighting.
I thought you didn't like it.
No lighting.
Goodness.
You'll do it and you like it. When you heard that?
Okay. From what I'm told tonight, mentioned to me tonight, I'm not happy about, like I said, I'm not happy, there's a line item on this budget that is for Mr. Herman to have a secretary at $120,000 to start with.
It's not true. Where are you getting your
Well, I
information?
know, a resident told me that tonight.
okay.
I would like to know, if he's hiring a secretary, tell me how much it's gonna be.
It's not a secretary.
Well, just tell me the salary.
It's not a secretary.
Don't tell me what the salary is for the assistant or whoever else it is.
There was a line item for a
Engineer.
deputy engineer,
Okay,
and I believe that is $120,000.
For an engineer. Okay, right now, Barbara, we
Not
went
a
through this
second.
many times through the years. Many times.
I was.
Okay, out of the escrows, we are giving out
Okay.
anywhere from $500,000 to $750,000 a year from escrows to some outside engineering firms
Oh.
to do some of the work for Howell Township.
Someone mentioned to me an
Excuse me?
assistant or a secretary. That's fine.
A secretary.
Okay, anyway, like I
Okay.
said, this building is in need of tenants. At the April meeting, there was talk about moving the library and the senior center, and you have to pay a lot of money out to lawyers. So I would appreciate it if this council or anybody else don't piss away a lot of money that belongs to the seniors and the citizens of this town on a secretary or anybody else. Spend the money when you need to spend
Those,
it.
Mrs. Dixell, those statements were never said.
Spend the
And
money when you need to
Mrs.
spend it.
Dixell, Mr. Dixell, I've been sitting up here for a long time and I have the utmost respect. But of late, there has been a lot of inaccurate stuff being said. And that is not something that has said. No one has ever said anything about moving the senior center.
At the April 7th.
That
at the
was
budget
not
meeting,
said.
That was talked about. Don't tell
We
me
were
that.
just,
It
we were
was not
just
talked
talking
about.
about the property itself.
The senior
We
center-
did not talk about that as if we were going to do it.
That
The
was
actual
mentioned.
conversation, I believe, was about the property there and what happens if we need a larger police department or a larger court. And I think that we were just having a
There was
little
talk-
bit of
there was
discussion
talk
about that.
Moving the senior center and the library, there was talk about that. Okay, I
There
got a
was
few phone calls.
Mr. Walsh said, you know, I always thought it might be nice to have the library in this building. That was, I think, the most of the discussion. I don't think that was much more than that, but I mean, we could all go back and take a review of that video.
The seniors are critical to Howell. That building is critical to Howell. That's probably one of the only meals these people eat during the day. You're not
So
going to get them down here.
is your belief that if we decided to move that building, that we were not going to do anything for the seniors? Is that what the
If the
belief
senior
is?
center has to come here, it's
That's
an
not,
atrocity.
it's an atrocity.
Right.
For who?
For who and
Listen,
why?
but
For who?
The building has to go back to Presbyterian Homes. That was done by ordinance, the Presbyterian Homes. That building does not belong to Howell
Okay,
Township.
hold on. That has nothing to do with what you just said. If the senior center ended up being here in this building, that would be an atrocity.
Right, are you going to be
For
able
who?
For the seniors, are you going to be able to feed them and give them lunch and give them programs like they have over there? Are you going to be able to do
Absolutely.
it? Oh,
And
absolutely.
the only context of moving this, the only context of, in theory, if things change, would be to enhance the programs the seniors have now, because it has been said numerous times by the directors of the senior center, there wasn't enough space there to do
That's
some of the
not-
programs they would like to do.
No, that's not what I hear, but you know what?
That's not what you hear.
What is it going to cost you to renovate this building, to make the renovation, to be able to accommodate?
Mrs. Dixell, we did not say we were moving the seniors here.
Please don't. The seniors deserve more respect.
You know what, I think that
Okay.
I feel like you're getting very upset over this, and there's really, I don't want you to get upset, because there's no reason to.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara. I miss you. Jerry?
Is there anyone else that wants to come up that is not on the list?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jerry Barron, 37 Janella Way, Howell. First of all, thank those that attended the senior center last week. It was good to see you, and don't make it a one-day-a-year shot. Visit again. Last week, we had a meeting, some of us, about the proposed farmer's market. Is there any kind of follow-up to that? Or is that still under discussion, or?
Brian?
It's still
Or
under
Joe?
discussion. I'm following up with the other towns. There was a list of towns provided to me. I've emailed representatives from each town and been going back and forth with getting questions, so I'm still getting info from them.
Okay,
All right?
all right.
And just so you know as well, I was just sent a couple of template insurance policies by Ms. Osborne, so I have to take a look through those as well.
Okay. I just want to follow up. One final thing about the budget. I know it's been proposed other years, but I didn't hear it this year. I'll take my seat and you can discuss it, but I know the 911 emergency for the county got a national award just recently. Has any thought been given, and 22 other towns in the county go there? Is there any chance we could be the 23rd town, and if so, how much would it save? I'll leave you to discuss that.
So I believe Mayor Gatto did an analysis, and at the end of it, there was not a very large savings to the town, if I'm correct with Mr. Gatto's, with Mayor Gatto's documentation that I read. And I would not support going to the county, personally.
How much money would it save?
I don't remember the number off the top. Do you remember?
No, I don't remember.
Mr. Walsh, do you remember?
No, I voted against it at the time, and I'm still against it going. At that time, I voted no to the,
But do you remember the number that he came up with?
no, I was involved in all the meetings with everybody, and I had to do with a lot of things. I don't think numbers were the most important thing at that time. I don't think the county was ready for a town the size of Howell. We had a lot of input from a lot of the professionals in our town and professionals from some other towns, and I just wasn't comfortable with the decision. Do I think eventually that we'll end up, I think a lot of things will end up countywide in the state of New Jersey. I think home rule over the next 10 years is going to end in a lot of different ways. It's going to be the only way to save money is going to be to consolidate. Because you got the taxpayers on one hand saying, I don't want taxes going up. As long as everybody controls everything themselves, there's no way. So,
Also, those numbers that Mayor Gatto had, I'm going to assume would be stale at this point, but, at such time that it may be a consideration in the future, which there's been no discussion of that I'm aware of, it would be reworked and all that information would be fresh and pertinent.
Agreed. Come up, please.
Hi, my name is Peter Corcoran from 6 West Monticelli Court. Just to follow up on what we were just chatting about, how long ago was that analysis done?
probably
That was-
about 2.5 years ago?
Yeah, about that.
Okay.
But that's the only information that I know.
I don't think it was a
I don't think it was
sanctioned
in-depth analysis.
in-depth analysis. I think we better be careful
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, I don't think there was any in-depth analysis done when it came to numbers. It was a discussion. There was some meetings we had some private meetings with the chief of police, the former chief of police, some of the fire commissioners, some of the heads of fire districts. We had some people who came in from other towns to speak to us about it. And we had some discussion about it from the dais.
So no real numbers were obtained to decide
There were
how
no
much-
concrete numbers.
Okay, so we really don't know how much we would save.
Correct.
Okay. And as you mentioned, okay, you feel that the county was not ready to take on a town the size of Howell. That's why you turned it down?
From my discussions, okay, I didn't feel that the county at that moment was ready to absorb us.
Did we bring the county in to discuss it with them at all?
Yes.
County was in on,
Did
And they had the opportunity to come
agree-
here?
Did they agree with you that?
excuse me,
Okay.
they had the ability to come here, like anybody else did when we had 300 people in this room.
It's not, okay.
Okay, they had the ability to come here and talk to us about it, and they didn't. We did have information.
Excuse me, I'm very, the ability to come here versus you seeking them out and sitting down and chatting with them to decide, hey, can you handle us or not, is the
There were
appropriate way of handling this.
There was conflicting information.
And no one sorted it out?
Got sorted out at the end?
It doesn't sound like it did.
Yes, it did. It got voted on 3-2 not to move to the county.
Yeah, but without any proper event analysis or investigation.
Because there were intangibles. Some of them were not concrete.
But you never even talked to the freeholders about it. How could you make a decision to decide if they can't handle it if you never really talked to them about it?
I'm not going to tell you I never spoke to any freeholders about it. I never said that.
I asked you, did you talk to the freeholders about this?
Yes, I did speak to
And
some
your
of
answer
them.
was they have the ability to come here like anybody else. That was
But
your
they had the
answer.
ability to come here and present facts. I spoke to the freeholders, some of the freeholders about it in general.
Okay.
Nobody sat down and harshed out hard, definitive numbers.
But are definitive, do they have the capabilities of handling it?
I would imagine now. I don't know if they did then. It was more in a beginning stage.
Okay.
A lot of smaller towns went there.
Okay, that's why I asked how long ago it was. It's 2.5
About
years
2.5
ago?
years ago.
Okay. So it sounds like it's time to maybe take another look at this with some hard numbers, a hard investigation, not just off-the-cuff kind of stuff.
For me, we'll see what happens. I think a lot of things, like I told you.
like somebody on TV that I hear all the time.
No, I just don't know what to do with it. I really don't.
Well, I think a proper investigation and analysis should be done of it. And Mayor, you mentioned you're not in favor of it. Why not?
Maybe it's because I feel more comfortable with having my police department here, having dispatch here that knows every inroad of Howell.
Okay.
I feel more
okay,
comfortable.
That's,
And that's my personal opinion.
okay, I mean, I can understand that, all right. But I think it's time to maybe take another look at it. The community that I represent, which is the Equesta, this is something that's come up a number of times in our meetings, that we feel that this is something that should be looked at, and maybe a possible area of saving some money. But again, I don't know because I don't have the numbers, and it sounds like you folks don't either. So just a suggestion maybe to take a harder, closer look at it for the future. Okay,
Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
the conversation in those years when that came up before, because it was felt, when a lot of citizens came in, it was felt, the governing body or whoever was here, it was felt that because Howell is so rural, with so many rural, woodsy areas, that the county would never, ever be able to find people in a dire emergency in this town. And
Barbara,
more
once
so-
again, that's inaccurate.
I don't know that
That's
we can say that.
I was here too.
Well,
That's
no, no,
inaccurate.
I heard conversations also.
That's not how 911 works. That's an inaccurate statement. There was never no fear of that residents in dire need wouldn't get
All the
services.
towns here-
It had to do with equipment. There was different equipment used in the county versus the system that was in Howell Township. There was discussions about how much it would cost to have to do a transition. There was never a conversation about the safety of the residents of Howell Township.
They're gonna have a hard time finding the back roads of Howell.
They will not have the hard time, they will not have a hard time finding the back roads of Howell Township.
Let's hope nobody has an emergency if the county is here.
And Barbara, just so you know, that wasn't my concern. Okay, it might have been yours, but it wasn't mine. I think GPS and things have come a long way.
You know, should this ever be an issue in the future, should we ever choose to investigate this, it will have a full vetting. I wasn't here, I didn't sit here when this was spoken about lightly in the past, because I have a feeling that we didn't have firm numbers then, from what I can gather. But what I can tell you is that it wouldn't be looked at lightly now, should this council choose to look at it. So, from my perspective, and I'm sure the council feels the same way, because they would look at all of the information that's available, I think that, there's no fear that there would be a rock not turned over to ensure the best thing for the town in terms of safety, health, welfare, money. So please, know that. I'm sorry, I'm taking up public time.
Oh,
Paul Dorado, 27 Firestone Drive. I just wanted to ask about the reserve for uncollected taxes of $3.2 million. What percentage do we deem that every year that would be collectible out of that particular figure, and how is that actually arrived, that figure?
Lou?
Yes, Mayor. In short, basically how the reserve for uncollected taxes is calculated is we take an estimated amount of what all the taxing entities' levies will be for this fiscal year, and we use an estimate of an assumption of this year it's very close to 98%. So effectively, to account for the non-payers, the taxes that will be uncollected, we technically need to levy out 102% of the levy because we pay out the schools, the county, the fire districts, 100% of their levy, and we absorb the non-payers. We are statutorily required to budget for a reserve for uncollected taxes to account for that gap between what would be uncollectible. And basically 2% of the levy, of the estimated total levies that we need to collect for all of the taxing entities is that 3.237 million number that you see there.
So out of that particular number, 3.2, that's derived from the percentages that you gave me. What percentage do you?
You gotta speak into the mic, so it
Okay.
picks it up.
Well, okay. Out of that 3.2 million figure, what percentage, if that's the percentage that you arrive, what percentage does the township strive to collect on that? Through enforcement, through?
I mean, obviously, we tried to do our best efforts to try to collect as much money as we can. We've held strong as far as our collection rates for the last couple of years at about 98 and a quarter. 98.2 was the last year. So,
I'm going to interrupt you. 98.2% of the total tax was collected?
correct.
Okay. So we're working a little less number than what I thought then. So, okay, out of that, do you strive for 1%? Is that about the average for municipalities of this size, or what figures?
In my experience here, I mean, in my 11 years here, we've been in a range of about 97.8 to about 98 and a quarter over the course of the last 10 years. Usually, the only way that you can achieve a 99 or higher percent of collection is by having an accelerated tax sale, which we don't do here in Howell Township. I think even through all of the collector's efforts as far as having a tax sale, sending out delinquent notices, as Mr. Walsh has said in the past, mortgage companies do their best to, try to pay for the properties that they hold mortgages on, even though some of the taxpayers might not be paying into the mortgage escrow. Our collection rate has held pretty good around that 98.1, 98.2, 2.25%.
So with this total figure, this is just tax. Does this take into account any liens on properties that haven't been realized at all, or is that a separate category?
That would be a separate category. We're allowed to, so liens are considered delinquent taxes, so whether they are a lien held by a third party or a lien held by the township, we're obviously allowed to anticipate a certain amount of, a certain component of our revenue anticipated receipts from delinquent taxes. Those lien receipts are factored in. It's not a big portion because the township held liens aren't redeemed as often as the third-party liens are, but it is factored into the annual revenue that is anticipated in the budget every year.
So what's the average time that you strive for particular liens? Are we held to a particular standard? I mean, I know that they're all different and each situation is kind of unique.
As far as liens go, if the liens are unredeemed, then whether it's a lien held by a third party or the township lien, without going into, the details, those lien holders would, if they choose, have the right to foreclose on that property.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else that wants to come up? Are you?
All right, never mind. Jerry spoke to you.
Okay. Is there no one else that wants to come up? I will close this open portion of the meeting to go to the consent agenda items, please.
Is there any need for separate votes on it?
I don't know who Sean Canning is and how he, I mean, was this,
985, Brian, can you give a?
Yes, Mayor, that's a contract we signed with the Cannon Group with the retirement of our qualified purchasing agent, Estita Bushkin, last week. This company will act as our designated purchasing agent. This resolution just authorizes him in the state's eyes so he can meet certain bidding thresholds. We've contracted with the company for $17,000 for a full year. We can terminate at any time with that contract prorated. So
are you not going to replace Estita's position?
we will eventually. Part of their proposal was to mentor some of our in-house staff. We didn't have anybody ready to step into her position just yet. So that is part of their obligation with the contract, is to mentor one of our employees into that position.
Okay, thank you.
You're
We
welcome.
already put the position out?
We had advertised the position. We didn't get very many resumes back, so we opted for this option to contract it out.
You think if we raised how much you were willing to pay them, we would get more?
It's possible.
So you contracted out for 17,000
For a year, yes.
for a year. And what were we advertising the position for?
I believe the starting salary was around 50 to 60,000.
Just a question that I'll ask later on in life, if I'm still up here. If we can get it done for 17,000, why would we pay 100,000?
Well, there is the benefit of having somebody here full-time, where this person remotes access into our system to approve requisitions and review documents, that kind of thing.
This person's not only working for us then?
Correct.
Still saving $80,000 a year.
If this person is working with other townships, does that cause any conflict?
None that I'm aware of.
Just asking.
Sometimes, Mayor, it's about the licenses and designations of government. I'm okay with it. Make a motion to approve 9A 1 through 5, and 9B 1 and 2. And we have to, do we need to appoint somebody else to, or do we have somebody for 9B 3?
I would like to add Janelle Coughlin.
I would do that separately.
Okay. Make a motion to approve 9A 1 through 5, and 9B 1 and 2.
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
May I make a motion to appoint Janelle Coughlin, member of a 5-year unexpired term, expiring 12/31/2020, to the Shade Tree Commission?
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Sure. I would like to open this portion, sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Do I have to say yes? I said
No,
yes,
I'm just
sorry.
chuckling.
Okay.
I just-
I'd like to open this portion of the meeting for public hearings on the ordinances.
No, the next item on our list, we don't have a hearing on ordinance this evening, nor introduction of ordinance. The next item will be the 2018 municipal budget, public hearing. Lou, is there any introduction that you want to speak of?
Oh,
I don't believe there's been any changes since the introduction 2 meetings ago.
So there've been no changes? Nobody's called you and asked you to make changes to the budget?
No, sir.
Lou, no one's called you to ask for changes to the budget?
I have been not contacted by phone nor email.
All right, where we going? Other than I'm going to heaven one day. I am too.
so we have to open this portion up.
I feel it, Barbara. I'm going to heaven one day, man.
Because we have to go here, right?
The public hearing.
So we open it up. So I'd like to open up this portion of the meeting for a public hearing on the budget.
Barbara Dixell, 62A Piazza Vittoria, Freehold, New Jersey, Villages. Okay, since you are going to pass this budget tonight, I specifically request that you open every single line item on this budget, discuss it, and tell us why and what you're passing.
Barbara, that was done during all the budget hearings. We've had numerous budget hearings, and we went through each department head
This is the
line.
final document that you are going to pass.
Yes,
That you
and
are
we
going to
went,
spend the
and
township's
Mrs.
money.
Dixell, we went through every line item with every department head, when the department heads were here, and after the department heads were here. Do you have something specific you want to discuss
I just
on
want
the
to know
line item?
exactly what this says and what you're passing and why. And how much money is it going to cost the taxpayers of the Township of Howell?
Lou, do you have those basic numbers?
The mayor, a couple more water. She's going to have to talk a lot.
Yes, sir. The 2018 budget, as it was introduced, is approximately almost a penny decrease from the prior year's tax rate. Assuming that on the average, it would be about a $31 reduction for a home that was assessed at a value similar to what it was in 2017. The average homeowner value had increased based on the ratables, the residential ratables that we have valued had increased a little bit, but that would equate to about a $13 increase in municipal taxation for municipal purposes.
Municipal. In other words, the way the Board of Ed does it, they say, based on a house assessed at $350,000, you can expect to spend X number of dollars per year. It would cost you, so how would that,
I think Mr. Palazzo just said, on the average house, there would be a reduction of $33 on the average.
Median home in Howell Township, which is probably about 315,000 right now, 320?
31,000?
It's actually about 343,500.
It went up to 343, huh?
Yes, it did. And under that example, your 2018 municipal tax levy would be approximately $1,330. Again, approximate based on your assessment.
So Barbara, we don't know what the total taxes are, as we're the collector until everybody cuts their tax rate in the budgets. Okay, this is only your municipal portion.
Municipal portion.
We don't control 83% of what we collect, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
Also, when the Board of Ed decides to nail us again, every single year, we have been getting approximately $300 increase every single year. The unfortunate part is that the taxpayers voted years ago to vote for the budget on Election Day, so now we have no choice. We can't say one word, it's on the ballot, it's passed, and we're screwed.
Barbara, if they're under 2%, on their budget increase. Okay? So you would need a $6 million home. Okay? A $100,000 home at a 2% increase in municipal taxes would be $20.
That's not the Board of Ed.
The Board of Ed still has to be under 2% like anybody else in their increase.
I have got to tell you that between 2015 and 2017, my Board of Ed has been over $300 a year. Why?
Barbara, could I just ask, you should have this discussion at the Board of Ed.
You ever talk to a wall and get the same answer?
Well, but there's nothing that, we can't control that.
I understand that. Is there any way you can have some talks with them and maybe ask them to be reasonable? People who live on Social Security, they only go so far, Mayor, and then something doesn't get paid.
I'm not arguing with you.
And then
I'm just
people get forced out of Howell.
redirecting you.
People get forced to move out of Howell because you can't afford to live here. That's the reality.
I'm not arguing with you.
I'm not arguing with you either.
I'm just
But the
redirecting
plain-
you to go to
The plain
them.
facts are, it's becoming prohibitively, impossibly expensive to live in Howell.
In New Jersey.
In New Jersey, but Howell's Board of Ed is out of control. Howell's Board of Ed is out of control. The sad part is, it's on the ballot, and we have no say. And they just do what they do.
You do have a say. You vote on the Board of Ed members. You do have a say. And I believe this year they're going up 1%, maybe 1.25% in their local school taxes. And you know what, Barbara, the education system here is exceptional.
It's
Hold on,
exceptional.
Barbara, let me say something. I mean, the education system here in Howell is exceptional. Having a special needs child and 2 gifted and talented daughters, okay? This school system was exceptional for me
I
to
don't disagree.
raise my children in.
I don't disagree with
Okay,
you.
and that helps the value of homes.
Absolutely.
Go into some areas that have less than efficient school systems and see the values of where their homes go. The homes in Howell are increasing tremendously over the last
Oh, yes,
3-4
they
years.
have.
And part of the reason is the schools.
Well-
The Freehold Regional High School District. It's an exceptional school district.
So your local K through whatever is also exceptional, but they need to be a little bit more reasonable and a little bit more concerned about the welfare of people and the seniors who can't afford to pay $300 a year just in property tax increase from the Board of Ed. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? I will close this section, this portion of the open meeting to go to R-18-137.
Who? Penny, do you read the title, or do we have to read the title?
No, this,
So,
help me out.
yeah, sure. Mayor and council, resolutions 18-137 and 138 are 2 procedural resolutions that we pass every year. The one that is referring to the read by title only is we are certifying that we followed certain steps that are prescribed by the state as far as advertisement of the budget. And that will allow us that as long as we are in compliance with those items, we are allowed to refer to the 2018 budget during these discussions, as well as through adoption as read by title only, or else we would have to read it into the record in its entirety. So
So I can make a motion just to approve Resolution R-18-137?
Yes, sir.
Do you want to do them both, 138 and 137?
137 and 138.
They have to be separate, or?
They could be done under the same motion. And just to explain 138, once every 3 years, we are required to have the state local government services examine our municipal budget. This fiscal year, we were not under the DLGS examination period, so we have to certify that we performed a local examination of the budget very similar to what they would do at the local government services offices, and this resolution would just certify that as well.
I'll make a motion to approve R 18137 and R 18138.
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
Adoption of the budget. Make a motion, we approve 2018 municipal budget, R 18-139.
Lou, do you have to read those? In the past, I think, did you read the numbers or no? Just, I'll second it if you don't have to read it.
That is only under the, if we were doing an amendment to the budget.
I got you.
You don't have to read the total number of what you're paying out? That's
Well, it's,
ridiculous. Okay,
Ready for a roll call, or was there a response?
no, I second it.
Okay. Roll call, Mrs. O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
I have to say I was inclined to vote no on this budget. I know that everybody worked really hard. I almost kind of feel like I'm voting on the budget like in protest. I just don't want any cuts to the police department. I know that's one department that can be cut, or that has been on the table, that did not have any cuts this year. And I don't want to put the town at any risk, and I don't want any members of the town to feel that, you know, we did that intentionally, because they're dependent upon the services that the police department does. I have to vote no.
I just want to piggyback on something. You voted, you don't mind, do you? You know, one of the biggest responsibilities we have as a governing body and fiduciary responsibilities is this budget. And, you know, I respect your opinion on the police department, and we have many services we provide here.
Of course.
Department of Public Works, Senior Services, and the list goes on and on and on and on. First of all, I want to commend the manager and the team because they worked tirelessly to reduce a budget,
Agreed.
okay?
I was
On the
here.
discretionary side. It's a shame that you voted no, because I think you're playing politics. But with that said, you have a decrease in the tax rate. You have no services cut. Howell is on a financial stable path. I think this is something that the residents should be very proud of. This is a lot of work that takes place and a lot of planning. So, unfortunate, but at the end of the day, I just really want to commend the staff and this council, because we put a lot of time and a lot of energy to go into this budget to make sure that we didn't cut any services to the people, and we maintain the quality of life that people expect to live in Howell Township. So,
And several extra meetings to boot, which apparently didn't help.
We're all entitled to an opinion.
yes.
I'm just a little disgusted, Mayor, that if you had a problem with the budget, you made no phone call, no effort to ask anybody to reduce anything over the last 30 days since it's been introduced. And that's a shame, because if you really had a problem with it, I wish you had discussed it, spoke to the public, told everybody what your issues were, other than I vote no to the budget. You know, it's okay. God bless you. I expected nothing less, nothing more. I'm perfectly fine with it. Right in the newspaper. Mayor voted no to the budget, but gave no examples of anything she wanted to cut.
Tell
Just
us
the
how
budget
much your
introduced.
budget is.
I
You're
gave
voting on
multiple
something with
examples
no
when they were
numbers. Let us
addressed.
know how much much you're spending, damn it.
Barbara,
You're
that's,
entitled to know.
That's not
Barbara, that's not good.
Too bad. You're entitled
No,
to know.
no, I'm not going to allow that. I'm sorry. I won't allow anybody up here to get yelled at from anybody in the audience. That's not appropriate at all.
Sorry, Mayor, but I asked that question before and I never got an answer and I still don't. And you gotta know it. Let us know how much it is. What's the numbers?
You know, for the last 28 days, this has been up for review for the public.
Well, now you say final vote, so now we wanna know what the final number is.
And, well, this final number's been the
Has
same final
been
number for the
published.
past several weeks. But Lou, would you please give the final number again this evening, so that no one feels that somehow they've been duped?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So the total municipal budget for 2018, total appropriations are $51,065,000. Anticipated revenues are $24,260,235, which leaves an amount to be raised through taxation for municipal purposes in the amount of $26,804,765.
Thank you, that's all I wanted. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all I wanted.
Same numbers last month, by the way.
Is there any unfinished business?
Yes, I was, if I might, last Friday, we also had Arbor Day. Shade Tree Commission worked tirelessly to put something nice together. All of our schools, our third graders participated. I specifically did Ardena School, as I was a student there. I'm particularly fond of Ardena. Reminds me of being young. But at any rate, all the children are very excited to participate in this program. And once again, the Shade Tree Commission and the staff at all of the third grade schools came through at a remarkable pace and made a wonderful program. Thank you.
For information, the National Day of Prayer is on Thursday, May 3rd, 2018, in the municipal building. Cornerstone Calvary Chapel is partnering with Howell Township for a prayer meeting at this building, 4567 Route 9, at 7 p.m. The next regular meeting is May 15, 2018, executive session 6:30 and regular session at 7:30. I would entertain a motion to close the meeting.
May I ask who's going to be participating from the council on Thursday evening for the National Day of Prayer?
I won't be here.
Bob?
I am doing everything I can to rearrange my schedule to be here. Pastor Chris, I've known for a long time. I would really like to be here Thursday night, and I am planning on it.
I as well. Okay, I just wanted to double check while we're all here. And I would be happy to make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Now I want to stick around.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.